has provided adequate notice of this meeting to the public by having the time, date, and location advertised in the citizen newspaper, posted on our website and at town hall. Official action will be taken. Board member roll call, please.
Mr. Doherty? Here. Mrs. Fernandez?
Here.
Ms. Dorgelis?
Here.
Ms. Dahl?
Here.
Mr. Graf?
Here. I'd like to welcome Mr. Braden to come lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You can come right up to.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will hear a little bit more about Mr. Crone shortly. Let's start. We'll see a slightly different organizations in the reports and updates section. I'm going to start with SGO student report.
Alrighty, we got the happenings at TJ. So we got the musical The Wizard of Oz this past weekend. It was a major success. We also got the 8th grade classes attending the Beautiful Titan trip. Already happened. Miss Sanguera's class was going to do the Pizza Rustico tomorrow. Baseball and softball teams have started practices. And 8th grade is going to the I-5 field trip next Tuesday, March 24th.
Thank you.
Happenings in SGO. SGO is some spring candy grants that will be delivered right before spring break. We are hosting a dance on Friday, April 10th for all grade levels that will be carnival themed, and HSI is helping pay for some of the required materials for this year.
Thank you both. Does the board have any questions on the SGO report? All right, thank you. We'll move on to the superintendent's report with a special student recognition section today.
Thank you everyone for coming. The student that led us in the Pledge of Allegiance today, his name is Braden. He is in 8th grade, and I promise I won't embarrass you, maybe a little bit. Again, good evening. I didn't want to forget anything. It's a pleasure to recognize Braden this evening as Rockaway Borough's Unsung Hero. It was an award ceremony that happened a week and a half ago. You know, Mr. Samuels was there, and some of our board members were there in support of you. It was well attended. I know a lot of our board members, some of them work in other districts, and they're very familiar with this event. Mr. Samuels spoke about the qualities that make Braden so deserving of this recognition: his positive attitude, his strong work ethic, and the tremendous growth he has demonstrated over the years. What stood out most to me when I was talking to Mr. Samuels, because what happens, I know you, I said hi to you a number of times, but I wanted to make sure I knew a little bit more. What stood out the most to me is that his recognition came from his teachers, who see firsthand the effort and determination he brings each day. As both a superintendent and a parent of 3 children, one of whom is currently in 8th grade, I understand how important the middle school years are. They're not always easy. A lot of us work in middle schools with that level, and it's just not an easy time for any student. Time of growth, challenge, discovery for everybody. And Braden has clearly embraced that journey in a meaningful way. His involvement as Vice President of Student Government, his participation in the school musical, which was great, by the way, but I'll save that for my report, and his commitment to becoming an Eagle Scout all reflect not only his talents, but his character as well. Just as importantly, he is known as someone who is kind, respectful, and supportive of others, qualities that truly define an unsung hero. So off the script, I was talking to Mr. Samuels, and I'm not going to lie and say it was a 15-minute conversation, but it was a long conversation. It was a good 10 minutes. And I said, well, give me an example. And he said, I don't know. He said, he comes up to me in the hallway and says, how you doing? But he really wants to know how I'm doing. You know, and we all do that. We go through our days so hectically sometimes. It's hectic. We're busy. We're doing a million things. And we're always trying to be polite, but he says, this is the type of kid that really cares how I'm doing. So that was really cool to hear. That was kind of impressed me the most. Maybe not as much as Eagle Scout, of course. We're proud of you. You represent the very best of Rockaway Borough, and we're excited to see all that you will accomplish in the future. So congratulations again. Come up here, we'll give you a certificate.
They wouldn't let me yell that during the
I know, man.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm just good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good job.
He's got Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Braden, my brother is a doctor, and the first thing on his resume is still Eagle Scout.
I gotta live with yours, eh?
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night,
Good night.
guys.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. I just have some other updates. Our state assessment, first 2 weeks in May. We're talking with a lot of different districts, specifically high schools that have already started, as well as other districts that haven't started yet. And the entire way to test is done is totally different than anything that we're used to in terms of a state assessment. It's very much based on that individual student, and not everybody has the same questions, and it takes you in different places. We'll be able to update a little bit more in our next meeting in terms of how we're going to set up the scheduling of the assessment. The way it works is it's still sections, but you can do it in one day, you can split it up into 2 days, but it seems like many of the students and older students in high school that are taking it seem to be confused about where they are while they're on the test. Like, it's not like there's 50 questions and you know when you're at 25 you're halfway through. It's kind of like you're not really sure when you're done. So we just want to get a little bit more information and make sure our kids have the best opportunity of doing well for themselves. And obviously it's important to us, but I'm not really sure what their measure is going to be in terms of what those scores are. My assumption is it's going to be based on growth in the second year. So there's more to come on that. I did want to mention the tricky tray, and the date is escaping me. 20.
Yes.
Got it. So that is a great event. That information, it's definitely an event that I think is well worth attending. What they do for the district, the amount of fundraising that goes on, it is always greatly appreciated, and we'll help in any way that we can in terms of getting the word out like we always have. So I'm helping with the distribution of things and organizing things, so however that will help our students and staff. Briefly, Wizard of Oz was great. I saw it on night 2. I did send out a message on Saturday morning based on an incident that happened on night 1 on Friday that was unrelated to any of our audience members or students or staff. It was an unfortunate issue, and it was handled appropriately by the police, and luckily some parents were swift into taking action and helping in their own way, and it's greatly appreciated. It's nice, I think I said that night that it's just nice to be in a town where parents know a lot of kids, even if they're not best friends with their child. It's nice to live someplace like that. I feel like where I live, I feel like it's the same way, where people that know your kids, they know if they could go to somebody if they need assistance, so it was nice to see. But going back to the play, what a phenomenal play. We were kind of short on chaperones that night, so unfortunately I didn't get to watch as much as I could, but I did see enough of it, and I really enjoyed it. I wish maybe my younger child came, he would have enjoyed it. My older ones would have too, but they're in that weird age right now, so they don't want to come with dad someplace. But I really thought it was so well done. The volunteers that help it's so appreciated. Mr. Bovis here, I think he would consider it a success. Ms. Barbosa, and obviously the students, they really put in a lot of work for this, so kudos to them. I think Braden mentioned in his report that spring sports are on their way. Hopefully the weather clears soon and we're out there as much as we can be and not hampered by rain or muddy fields. There is a resolution on the agenda to address some of the fields with grant funds. And there's obviously also a resolution for a preliminary budget, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more, but this is just a preliminary budget that our final budget hearing won't be until May, I believe May 5th, correct, May 5th, yeah. Which is probably subject to change potentially, but I don't think it'll change right now. So there's a meeting in between that. On April 7th, it's the first day that we're back from spring break, so pretty quick turnaround time to our next meeting. So budget presentation and the board adopting the final agenda will not be until May. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Cusmano, Board Secretary, Business Office Report.
We had a projection that was done, and we stand to be in good financial shape, where we do have, a 2% surplus plus extra surplus that we're going to be using to balance this year the incoming 26-27 budget. So the district is in good shape. The only other thing I have to report, sad on one end but happy on the other, is Ms. Nadine Morganland, and it should be in this agenda, has submitted her retirement, and the board will be approving it. We do have a plan in place for her successor, so I expect the transition to be smooth and no major headaches.
Thank you. All right, we will go through board reports. So this is inclusive of any organization for which you are the liaison of, any committee for which you are the chair of, or any other related updates. And we'll go down and start with Mr. Doherty.
I'm going to start with the rec report, and then I'll jump on the technology report. Mr. O posted recently that the co-ed volleyball team won for TJ, which is definitely extremely exciting. A few other items, not really Rockaway Borough related, but Rockaway Borough related, because it's the junior nights, which is, I believe, Warden, Rockaway Borough, maybe it's another town, but registration opens 4/1 for cheerleading football, as well as flag football for girls, which is grades 5 through 8. Definitely a great program. My daughter's been part of it for a few years, and I know a lot of people in Rockaway Borough are. The next rep meeting is a week from tonight. I will be there for that meeting, so I hope you can attend that as well. And now the technology report. So the webmaster report, pretty much she's been working very hard to get the site where it needs to be. As we all know, the site's, I guess a disaster is a nice way to put it, right, during the migration. So she's been doing a great job, pretty much adding the calendars. Hopefully this week or next week she'll be adding the calendar information to the school websites, revamped the athletics page for Mr. O, updated the forms and other information, on the linking pages, the lunch menus, redid the hit page, and updating registration. Pretty much a lot of updates for forms and information to verify they're all accurate, which is, anyone that knows websites in general, it's a lot of work, but I'd have to say she's making a fantastic process for having to learn this pretty much.
I mentioned one thing about the school calendar, just very quickly, just because it was actually today. So we actually, this is what we always wanted, but the school calendar would be a little bit different than the district calendar. May have things specifically, let's say we're talking about Lincoln to Lincoln, it may not be in the district calendar, and then there'll be district things as well, board meeting tonight, different color. That's ready to go, like her Google Calendar is ready. TJ's is almost done, but it may not have something that's like internal, custodian cleanup of CAF or something that might be in a calendar that we don't need. It's not really necessary for the public to see. That is done, but we're waiting to hear back from the vendor just because there was an issue with, I think it's something they have to do. So that was my actually update like a few hours ago. So that's why it's not large, but I just wanted to clarify.
And from a curriculum standpoint, I'm just going to talk about tech since generally covered the other curriculum aspects. Obviously, during the budget process, a big focus this year was on looking at software, seeing where cuts can be made in the software respect, and a lot of times software that is kind of duplicated in the sense they serve the same purpose. So Jamie's been doing a fantastic job meeting with the business office, figuring that out. And one of the softwares, the Lincoln assessment platform, will not be renewed next year, and we'll just be sticking with the Renaissance Star learning assessment software. Mirror is working well at Lincoln, and that's a reading software that's being utilized. The curriculum committee in a future meeting will be kind of sharing some benchmark information. And Dr. Greco did mention about state testing. NJSLA is grade 3 through 8. This year it is Canadian assessment, which is an adaptive test, and Dr. Greco kind of said that in a way that it is confusing students a little bit where they don't know where they are because it's supposed to kind of change the difficulty of the question based on how you previously answered the question before. One thing to note, Pearson still does have the contract for one more year for the NJSLA Science. So I don't think any of us really know what's happening after this year. I'm guessing we're going to have to go out to bid and see what they did with the rest of the tests. The district does have a few additional cameras on hand that they're working with administration, facilities, as well as our officers, trying to figure out key locations to install the new cameras to add additional security for our district, which is obviously always a good thing to do. From an infrastructure standpoint, a lot of the hardware, the majority of the hardware has arrived. Mind's Eye has been doing backups on the current system just to make sure everything is backed up before doing any migrations. They'll be upgrading in the near future the current environment to the most recent software since it hasn't been updated in a while. And honestly, that just makes migration a lot easier when you're migrating software to software on the same version, just to kind of make sure it's a little more clear. In the next week or two, they'll be installing the core network equipment, which is pretty much the core switches and all that stuff. It should take about a week or so, and then they're going to start migrating more information. But after that core network upgrade's done, they're going to be laying out the next steps and coordinating with administration, just because a lot of stuff has to happen in the off hours. That's all I have.
All right, so I have Lincoln Schools update. Kindergarten registration open on March 2nd, and our district is making a strong push to increase early registration through community outreach, including social media, the library, and direct family communication. If you open up Lincoln's webpage now, it says kindergarten, register for kindergarten right away. One important shift this year is moving kindergarten screening to the summer, and the change is expected to improve participation and reduce the need for subs. and kind of streamline staffing while supporting appropriate student placement. The preschool lottery has been completed and all seats have been filled. Families are now moving through the registration process. On the instructional side, staff participated in a district-wide PD on March 3rd, focused on IEP compliance, led by a special education attorney, helping ensure alignment with legal requirements and best practices. Lincoln School also had a very successful Read Across America and a family literacy night that brought in 45 students and included a partnership with Morris County vocational students along with free books for families. Throughout the Read Across America week, Lincoln School welcomed community readers and hosted a guest author, creating that strong sense of school-community connection. Looking ahead, upcoming events include this week's HSA Book Fair, next week's spring concert, and school-wide talent show in April. At this time, Lincoln is looking to fill a few staffing needs, including paraprofessionals, a lunch aide, and a permanent substitute. In terms of the New Jersey School Boards Association that I'm liaison, it was an honor to be part of the Unsung Hero ceremony. It was a really lovely event. And it was great to see Braden and other students that have that inspiring example of character, resilience, and quiet strength. And then I shared the following 2 webinars with the rest of the board, school funding update, and what's brewing in education law. Rockaway Borough Education Foundation, no updates for right now. I know they are registering students for before school and after school for next year. And their summer program. That's it. Anything for the finance committee, or you're the chair?
I can come
All
back.
right, cool.
If we want to go out of order, we can just go.
All right. We're going out of order.
Okay, so I'm going to first cover Ms. Argenziano's director report for curriculum instruction. As Mr. Doherty said, the big thing that's going on is preparation for the NJSLA, which is this new adaptive test that high schools are finding out yesterday and today, the first days of it, that it's not quite as smooth sailing as I think people had hoped. Hopefully by the time it gets to us, some kinks have been worked out. She's working with both schools to create and assign testing sections, test administrators, which is a whole different thing than proctors, making sure that those test administrators are properly trained, coordinating with CST members and guidance counselors to make certain that student information is accurate and that every student that should be provided accommodations are provided with those specific accommodations. There will be the infrastructure trial on April 22nd. That is what she refers to as a dress rehearsal for the official administration, and that'll be students in all grades 3 to 8. This week, they're doing a pilot, again, piggybacking on what Mr. Doherty said, in trying to reduce some redundancy in some of our apps and various platforms. They're using Freckle ELA and Freckle Math, part of the Renaissance platform, to work as kind of sort of benchmarks, but it is an adaptive program that provides individualized learning plans and generates unique skill pathways for each student based on their performance within the program. And then that program generates data that can be used for various analysis The district has an ELA committee that met this week to discuss several key topics with representatives from each grade level. And the bottom line is that the majority agreed that writing needs to be the primary focus moving forward. As an ELA teacher myself, I can't help but say that I agree with that 100%. And finally, the 7th and 8th grade students were invited to partner with HSA for an essay writing contest regarding enhancements or improvements they can make to their own school experience. So we're waiting to hear about those 2 winners. Unfortunately, I don't have them at this time, so that might be a little let down. But I have a feeling they will be coming soon. And then moving to the curriculum and instruction committee, we met on the 4th, I believe, of March. Let me just switch my tabs. All right, of the things that we talked about. Talked about study hall. That was a question that was brought up during our last Board of Education meeting, and ultimately, the straightest answer is due to budget cuts. We reverted back to study halls from some other things that were attempted during that same period of time. Right now, we're still, we still have study halls in place. That's what's happening moving forward, but we also have a very creative, out-of-the-box thinker as the principal of TJ, who is always trying to maximize student engagement and learning opportunities. And Mr. Samuels is going to keep working in that direction. And if there's a better use of that time than a study hall, then I think that's what we will try. And okay, and then the next question was in regard to Spanish. Again, due to budgetary constraints, we're not able to extend Spanish any further than what we currently have. Although, again, every report is that our new Spanish teacher is fantastic, and that the kids are really enjoying it. I think that having a positive experience, while potentially limited experience, but a positive experience, sends our kids from 8th grade into the high school with a good outlook on exploring world languages, as opposed to having them be a burdensome requirement. If we have the opportunity, again, moving forward, to add more Spanish into the schedule, that's something that we can certainly discuss if the opportunity avails itself. Okay, summer reading has been a major portion of our discussion for the better part of a year and a half now, I would say. And we have made the ultimate decision that there will not be any mandatory summer reading this moving forward, for the exception, or with the exception rather, of the 7th and 8th grade plus classes. It's certainly encouraged. There will be a ton of resources provided on the website. Mrs. Argenziano is already working on that with a team of other teachers. But the requirement and the mandate was losing its purpose. And what was happening is that we were encouraging a hate of reading instead of a love of reading. And that's what we should be encouraging. Students weren't necessarily putting forth the effort that was hoped would be put into summer reading assignments. Some students weren't reading at all, and the projects ended up being an exercise in creativity in an area where we don't necessarily want them to be quite as creative. And with the advent of AI, it was just gonna get worse. In addition, it started to create a bit of an equity issue. How students were going to get copies of the books, how we were going to somehow provide so many copies of various works of literature, how students were going to get their hands on them. So we made the decision to not mandate a summer reading assignment. Again, it is highly encouraged. We're going to have a list of suggested works, suggested books for each grade level, as well as supplemental materials on the website. And if parents and guardians and students themselves want to take the initiative to continue working over the summer, we absolutely encourage them to do so. But they will not be a mandated summer reading assignment moving forward. And lastly, we talked about our strategic plan. We are going to, sorry, I've got my notes here. We are going to gather communication and feedback via surveys instead of the community meeting like we had before. We think that it will be a way that we will actually have more responses and we'll be able to hear from more community voices. There will be 3 surveys. Parents will be surveyed, students will be surveyed, and faculty and staff will be surveyed. There will be 3 separate surveys that we're working on. We've already started working on putting those together. They will come out later in the spring, and then we will have the summer and early fall to go through them and analyze the data that's presented. They will be in the form of Google Forms. And we're working on exactly how those will look, but they will be more of a Likert scale type of questionnaire. Parking, traffic was another concern, sorry. Dr. Greco met with Officer Haig. And there are consequences with every option that is presented. Right turns, left turns, one ways, two ways, etc. Officer Haig, I think as we all know, has his eyes and ears open at all times in every direction possible when it comes to traffic and when it comes to everything else as well. We are so very fortunate to have him. But something I also learned about Officer Haig, and I say this in the most respectful way, is that he will also use his mouth when he feels that something is not being done in the most effective manner, and proposes solutions as much as he possibly And so Dr. Greco and Officer Haig have talked about the current traffic issues, and there's no denying we have traffic issues, but certain changes would cause bigger traffic issues. However, there have been some ideas, there's some signage that he suggested, some other parking explorations that we can look into, and so that's a work in progress. But I wanted to make sure that we followed up on that so that those who have asked questions know that nothing fell on deaf ears, and that we are working to provide, at the very least, follow-up on the questions that have been asked in regard to curriculum and instruction. And even though traffic isn't tied to curriculum and instruction, we started talking about it, and so we didn't have an official safety and security meeting, so it kind of got added to curriculum and instruction. And I think that covers what I'm responsible for.
Thank you.
Hello, I want to, HSA, on behalf of the board, we want to say thank you for sponsoring the board retreat. So,
Yes,
thank you, Ms. Green. Also, the HSA, of course, they have their garden party April 24th, which the tickets are already open, right?
Yep, we just
Okay, so we sold out today.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, but of course, HSA is always looking for volunteers to be runners, any help. You guys, reach out to any HSA member, they're always looking for help. And also the cookbook is going great, the date has been extended. So far, they had about 96 recipes. I don't know what it is, that was as of last week meeting that I attended, so that is going well. Also, the HSA did create a crossing guard appreciation, which they gave out beanies, hand warmers to the crossing guards around town, in which they were very appreciative. Hi, Ms. Marcy. But they were very well appreciative of that. Also, the HSA, as you guys know, they do go and stock up snacks in Lincoln as well as TJ. So even though you see them doing everything else, but they are doing a lot of behind the scenes, they're very involved, and of course they're always looking for members, parents, anybody in the community to volunteer. And of course, they do partner up with Morris Hills High School, try to get some high school volunteers as well. So if you have a kid in high school, wherever, I always tell them to check in with the volunteer office. Okay, and then also the book fair is started the 16th to the 18th. Sign up the kids for the e-wallet, which it makes it much easier at the book fair. It makes it run very smoothly for the kids to come in and out of the book fair. Now I'll give an update on TJ. The music teacher will be starting in April. The music teacher will be starting. Also, TJ did also the 8th graders presented to the younger students Black History Month. So they did go to the students, as well as Read Across America all week. The 4th to 6th grade classes, they were reading, and also there's a bulletin board decorated in the front of the office. Stop by and look. Also, National Junior Honor Society, kids were inducted on Friday, March 6th, which was a great presentation. And that's all I have. And thank you again to the HSA for all that you guys do.
I have a quick question, HSA question. I noticed that the cookbook recipe deadline was March 15th, is that correct? So
I think they extended
They
it
extended
past that. We extended it to sometime in April.
Yeah, it does.
We keep extending it. We want everyone to.
Yes, they extended it.
Thank you.
We're like, just keep sending them.
Thank you. Few things, I'll briefly echo I mean, it was a great Unsung Hero ceremony. I encourage the board, I know not everybody could come for one reason or another. They made it even quicker this year. Very nice, congratulations to Braden, very well deserved. I'll echo the appreciation to Officer Haig and the parents who intervened on Friday night to keep our kids safe. I'll also echo the statements about how great the play was. I saw it on the musical, I saw it on Sunday. Very well done. The lighting, the smoke, I mean, just nice job all around. Shout out to the crew as much as the cast. Very well put together. And of course, the staff leadership in the production as well. Read Across America, it's my favorite thing that I get to do in this position once a year is to go into Lincoln and read. It's just such a fun time to interact with the kids for just those few minutes. And it's a very well run event also, so thank you. Please keep that up. And it's other community members. Invites go out to council members and police officers and firefighters and former teachers and former superintendent, and it's a very nice event to get the community in and read into the kids. For a facilities update, at a high level, they detailed out several sink installations and repairs, with a thank you as always, because those are done in-house. It's always nice when that's the case, it saves money. And they're in full field preparation mode for the spring sports. We had our board retreat. Again, thank you to the HSA for providing the bagels and the breakfast for that. Couple of high-level outcomes there. We talked through streamlined agenda organization. We talked through the planning for our strategic plan, as Ms. Dahl mentioned. We had general alignment on operations documentation and agenda, as well as alignment on expectations around committee interactions and norms. So it was a good morning and lunchtime meeting for the board. For finance, Dr. Kuzmano mentioned the projection, and I want to underscore the importance of that. Sitting here a year ago, we really couldn't say much about what this year looked like. So the fact that we're ending the year with any kind of surplus in that projection is a really big deal. I want to thank the administration, but not just the administration, all of the staff. Being projected for that this year is a massive effort. I mean, it impacts the way everybody spends and requests for purchases, and I want to thank not just the administration but all the staff for everything that they're doing to make sure that we keep the finances where they need to be. We also met several times since January. I don't know the exact number offhand on the budget process. So a couple of notes briefly. On the budget process, as I mentioned last year, very fuzzy about what we would look like this year, but good feedback on the interaction between the members of the administration and department heads and the business office. A lot more clarity as a board member, as a member of the finance committee, a lot more clarity this year on what we're looking at, not just for next year, but beyond, and I think being able to make some better decisions as a result. So there's no getting around the fact that if you look at the number on the agenda, it is a large tax levy, but I do think directionally we're heading where we need to be in this correction. To that end, I mentioned last month that I sent letters on behalf of the board to Assemblywoman Dunn, Assemblywoman Sweeney, Senator Bucco, and Governor Sherrill. I heard back from Senator Bucco. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read all of the letters. It's a nice letter that acknowledged the topic and assured us that our requests to address school funding are a priority. I also mentioned last month that I would I would ask Dr. Greco or someone to put a version of that letter on the website, should anybody from the community also want to send it and use it as a template. You can change it as you like, but that's ready to go, so that'll go up tomorrow, if you can. And we'll also put some instructions on there as to the addresses that I use to send it, although if you're not as old-fashioned as me, like I wanted to sign it, if you want to just use their online methods of communication, you can do that.
Practice that cursive.
What's that?
You have to practice the cursive, that's not out of the curriculum.
Well, you wouldn't know it was my name, but it's on there. And that is the updates that I have. Thank you. All right. Board review of agenda items. Yeah. What we we'll present. Yeah. We'll. Okay. Do we know when, Dr. Greco or Mr. Hernandez, do we know when we may hear on the application for the grant?
I don't know off the top of my head.
With the DCA one,
Yeah.
I look, it's,
It might be on that home run on the actual website.
And when they make the decision, do we just get it in the amount, or is there some chance that they give us some amount but not the full amount? It's just you get it or you don't.
I
right?
think you get it or you don't. Yeah, I don't think there was like a partial, process for that.
Thank you.
I do know that a number of districts in the area have also applied for it.
I mean, this one is.
Cause it's
Why-
so
why
general,
wouldn't we?
why wouldn't you?
I mean, we need to address our fields.
Yeah.
We need a grant money to do that, that would be great.
What was really helpful in this particular one is that the district has already begun looking at what it would cost to do this work. So a lot of the information we already had, so it wasn't like we had to go out and get it, which was really, helpful.
I got one.
Yes,
when
thank
I-
you so much,
sorry.
Mr. Klein.
When I first submitted it on February 2nd, I just got the automatic reply that NJDCA has successfully received your application, and then I got the same email on March 2nd that says NJDCA has successfully received your application.
Was it sometime?
I'll find out if there's a timeline. I'll find out if there's a timeline. There's a timeline in there, probably. It was, each one is totally different. Their website seems a little antiquated in terms of how the thing comes out and just platform in general, but, great opportunity.
Yeah, in their press release, there's no real, timeline in terms of when you'll find out, just only the due date. So, we'll see.
I also should have echoed some comments about, Nadine, I'm sure we'll have more to say, it's not until the fall, but a lot of appreciation for what she's done as well. Policies, it's what we talked about last month, but
Yes,
we held off on
Yeah, so we had an organizational chart on the agenda with really the sole purpose of being to address oversight of the technology department, which is not hard for us to figure out. But I think in doing that and going through that process, we realized there's a lot of other little issues that we should address. I think the last time it was done was in 2022, probably the first time we had QSAC, which is state monitoring from the county. And we had it again recently, we passed both times, but at that time, I know we updated it, but I don't think we made any changes at that point, except maybe some of the names and positions that changed from when it was previously approved, which was probably at least 20 years prior, so.
you're still working.
So we're still working on it, so we don't have it on this agenda. I wasn't sure if we had to go consecutive agendas for a policy, but as long as it's on one of the upcoming agendas, we can go by that first reading. And it's not anything earth-shattering, so we just wanna make sure we get it right when we do it.
Any other questions from the board?
I do wanna add in terms of with our preliminary budget, I think this is after being on the board for a little over a year, being on finance for over a year, I finally understand it. Like, I know what bank cap means.
Yeah.
You know, things like that in maintenance reserves. And I did do a good amount of research about what comparable districts were doing in nearby districts. Not all of our neighboring districts post their agendas on time, so it was hard for me to find any updated information. But, you know, I did wanna point out that our neighbors next door in Denville are looking at a similar tax levy and a November referendum. And so it's interesting to see the nearby districts trying to keep up with healthcare costs, rebuilding the reserves that they've drained, and just correcting, in our case, suppressed levies. And I know what all of those words mean, which is awesome.
And it was certainly helpful
Without
to get an increase in state aid.
Correct. Yeah, we were very lucky to not have a decrease in state aid. But I know that I'll have conversations with parents and we'll talk about like, well, what about this district or that district that's comparable, let's say, in size? And I like picking on Warren because they're similar in size, except for we get $2 million in aid from the state and they get $10 million. So I understand the difference in demographics, but also like not, because it's very similar, all working families.
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Hernandez and I, and we've been through the rigor on this a lot of us, we really appreciate the process and clarity that we've gotten. It's a tough time in education, in the state, in the region, and thankful for where we wound up with some extra aid and the ability to leverage some of the surplus into the next year. It means we're paying back our reserves slower, but it's the right call for what we need to do to balance the budget for next year.
Thank you, Dr. Busano, for breaking it down and making it sense.
Yeah, and we'll certainly have more information on
Yeah.
this. I mean, this is the preliminary budget. We certainly know a lot having gone through it, but the next steps from here are to put together the formal presentation that happens when we formally adopt the budget. This is the preliminary budget that goes to the county for approval. So that's where we are in the process. All right. Okay, so the first public comment section is going to be limited to agenda items only. Please come up to the podium if you wish to speak, and then you'll be recognized for 3 minutes for comment. The 3 minutes will be uninterrupted with a lack of back and forth, and then at the end of the 3 minutes, any potential response from me or through me as the presiding officer of the meeting can go to other places if we need to. And I will state your first, last name, and municipality only. We don't need full address when you come to the podium. And with that, I will open the floor.
Hello, meeting clock.
Hello.
I had a couple quick questions on the budget. I know it's preliminary.
Yes.
Just confirm that I'm reading it right. Last year there was a 10.84% tax levy increase, and now it looks like there's about another 10%, 9.6 maybe. I just want to confirm that that's where we're looking at. And then I know that we need to do budget presentation in May. I've attended a couple of those. I think just a couple of comments in terms of thinking about when you're presenting it and who you're presenting it to, isn't it? Sometimes it feels like it's just to an educational audience. As a member of just the public, I know I'm here as a parent as well, it feels a little there's something about it that you're not speaking to everybody. It's not like it's, you know, it's like talking with teachers only. So maybe it's still held by it. Like when you talk about the technology and breaking, you know, between our changes in the past year or in the next year, truly breaking it down so there's a specific slide that, hey, this is how much we pay for MyTie, this is what we're getting, this is what we pay for the Chromebooks and all the other devices in the district, and then what we pay for the website. I think it'll be helpful for people to see how that money's broken down, me especially. The bank's cap stuff, I did a little bit of research, but I don't know now's the right time. But the numbers that you have in here, where you're basically taking the bank cap to balance the budget, which totals 815,000. That's basically levies that you haven't taken. I believe you've explained this to me before, but you can raise it up to the max tax levy, but you didn't. For example, I think that's where the healthcare costs come in. If the premium went up 15% and you only put up the tax levy by, say, 7, that difference is what you're using to cover the budget this year. That's a question, I think. And then you mentioned the website. I know that the webmaster is working on things to clean it up. I think if you want to add to the list the faculty directory for Thomas Jefferson, as one of the things to look at, because Mr. Reyes is starting there. And then I don't know if the webmaster really includes anything in terms of the architecture and the framework of the website, because that hasn't really been discussed in a while. And then someone mentioned facilities. I know you clean up the fields. I don't know if there's anything you do in terms of mitigating the geese. I know it's geese. But thank you.
Thank you. So you're right on the percentage.
Yeah.
It is 9.6 on the operational side of the budget. And we'll break that down the way, we'll break that down the way we normally would on the budget presentation, although thank you for the feedback. The audience will keep that in mind with some of the detail. I would look at that. The bank's cap, yes, you are right on some of bank cap. That's the smaller number that you see on the agenda that was left over for whatever reason it wasn't used last year. The other amount is I would look at that more as a healthcare allowance. And Dr. Guzman could probably talk more officially for what it all means, but I would look at that as an allowance because it runs up healthcare costs. That's not necessarily money that could have been.
But it's
Plus the
Plus the enrollment. I wouldn't say that it's banked from previous years. I think, is that just, that healthcare allowance is just part of the banked cap concept, but that amount is coming from the idea that healthcare costs are increasing. The $18,000 that you see is what we said last year that we were using.
Yes.
Yeah. And thank you for the comments on the website. We don't have anything on the east, but we can take that.
Yeah, we've probably used East Police once since I've been here. The paper dogs don't work very well, especially soon after. The best that I know that's still out there is the actual person that comes in the car with the dog and chasing around, because there's a lot of environmental things that we have to be careful with that. Sometimes it just kind of stops happening, and so we will definitely keep an eye on it.
Thank you. Other comment?
Hello, Danielle Villa, Borough. Kind of echoing some of what Katie was saying, as a parent in the district and a taxpayer, having more understanding of more of a breakdown of things would be appreciated. Understanding from a parent perspective how the increased spending translate into student outcomes, even, not just from a taxpayer perspective, but as a parent. What improvements or enhancements should families expect to see as a result of the new budget? And regarding the tax impact, pretty much what you're saying, that it appears to be another significant increase following the large increase from last year. And can you help us understand the projected tax trajectory over the next few years? Are we expecting similar increases going forward, or are we looking to hopefully not? That's all.
Thank you. I think, thank you for those comments, and we can take that into account when we put the presentation together. So maybe I can have maybe we can have a more full answer then. On the trajectory, I would say this, last year I wouldn't have been able to tell you. This year we can tell you we don't think so, and we hope not. Barring emergencies and unforeseen things, I mean, things happen, right? That's kind of part of the reason how we're here. But the hope is that we're in year 2 of a 2-year correction. I don't want to make it seem as though there aren't positive outcomes that we can talk about from that, and we can include some of that in the presentation. But also, I think there's a reality that I kind of look at it the other way. What that does is avoid further cuts. So, if you wanted to get that down to some sort of more reasonable number, we're looking at instructional cuts that would raise class sizes to 35 kids in a class, which we don't want to do. So it's and again, not getting into the specifics on those sorts of numbers, but I don't think that's something that any of us really want. So it's a little bit of avoidance too. I mean, the healthcare costs have skyrocketed over the last several years. We've talked about other healthcare costs was sort of the secondary thing that we were talking about last year. After special services, but all of those things are true. I mean, recently approaching a $2 million increase just when you put those things together over the last few years, right? So we've already cut nearly 10% of our instructional staff over the last 3 years. So the fact that we're not talking about that right now, I think is a little bit of the win too. Thank you.
Mr. Braden, I don't know if this is the right time, but maybe in the formal budget presentation as well. But if you can explain on a kindergarten level for me, what it means by when it's said that we are underfunded as a district, and the impact that that's had.
Yeah, I think we could cover it more in the presentation because I don't know numbers offhand, but essentially there's a formula that the state uses to say if we're funding adequately, and we have historically been under. I think the average in the state is that districts are under, but we have, depending on again, I don't know the exact number. So the state says you should be spending this much per pupil, and we're under that, or the total amount. So it's, we can, I think we need to firm up some of the numbers on what the direct answer would be, and then I think that is an important thing to cover in the slide.
Thank you.
I can chime in on that just because I've been wanting to talk about it, but we are trying to confirm, because there are some different areas, but in the state aid document that we get, and again, I'm just confirming this because some colleagues that I spoke to, most of them agree that that's the number, that we're about 1.9 million under adequacy for our district. And that's mostly because of state aid.
And what does that mean, under adequacy?
It means we are not, it's their definition of giving students a thorough and efficient education, T&E, they call it. So thorough, efficient education, we should be at this number, and we're somewhere between 1.6 and 1.9. I just want to confirm that, so don't hold me to that number. we will have that probably by the April meeting, if not, definitely by presentation.
And we would be considered, not meeting that you said?
Thorough and efficient
They're
education,
efficient, yeah.
which is definitely.
Predominantly
well,
because of the deficiency in state aid?
I don't think, I think we're conflating some of the language.
Okay, that, yeah.
So we're not, no one is saying we're not meeting the T and E, right, the thorough and efficient clause. We are meeting a thorough and efficient education for all the students here. Everyone's getting an education. What it does mean is that the state came up with some arbitrary number years back, right, through a formula that says this is how much a particular district in the state of New Jersey should be spending to have an adequate number, you know what I mean, to reach this level so that everyone has this opportunity to reach this thorough and efficient threshold. The fact is that there are some districts that are over adequacy and they've had and seen their state aid cut, such as Vineland and a couple of other ones that off the top of my head, I forgot some of the other ones, but they have seen their state aid cut drastically. Right, those are the so-called S2 districts from last year. So there are those that, like Rockaway Borough, right now we are under adequacy. But that's not to say that, oh, we can raise the tax levy up to all the way point of adequacy. That's not it. It doesn't work like that. So it's a state formula, and I think they have it like the Colonel's recipe, the secret recipe that they don't even know where it is, you know what I mean, and how they get it. But I tried to understand it many times. It's, like I said, for me it's a little confusing too, but that's kind of what it is. In a nutshell, is that it's just a level that the state says, a level of spending that you should be, so that you're at the thorough and efficient level. However, from here, I believe it is happening, it's just that the state funding, you're being shorted, and it could be more.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation.
Other comment on agenda items? Thank you.
My question is about the, so if we're underfunded by the state, is there a way of closing the gap? Like, is there a plan to close the gap, or is there, I guess I'm
Thanks for
testing.
on. We haven't got it.
Alright.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what I'm wondering is, like, how do you close the gap if it's, I don't know if you said it was $1.9 million. Personally, my taxes, like, dramatically increased last year, and I'm panicking a little bit hearing that it's gonna rise again. And I'm starting to wonder if we're being a little priced out of Rockaway Borough, which is, like, kind of shocking for the state of the schools. So, really, like, it's blowing my mind that I would be paying possibly $13,000 a year to live here with, like, these drastic budget cuts. It makes me wonder, have you thought about combining with Rockaway Township? Like, is that ever a conversation that you guys have? Because if you can't close the gap, how much can you ask from us as residents to keep paying for schools that are, like, sort of, like, barely meeting the minimum? Like, we're not really offering a whole lot here, and you're continuing to raise the taxes on us. Like, as a resident, like, I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed hearing this. So, like, it's interesting that Wharton gets, $10 million, and we get $2 million. Like, how are we going to, like, work this out for us? Like, we're a very small town, and I understand it's really expensive to have every single little thing. That's like a criticism of New Jersey a lot of people in other states have. That, every town and every borough has to have their own fire department, their own cop, like their own police force, every little thing, and that costs a lot of money. And we pay really high taxes for a very small borough. And it kind of seems like it's, like, is it working? Like, is this working, I guess? So, you don't really have to answer it, but it's like a lot of money that is, like, like what Ms. Dahl was saying, like, a budget cuts, like, so we have these study halls and budget cuts, and we only have, you know, this one Spanish teacher once a week. And I'm like, wow, I'm paying like massive, like more than anybody I know in terms of property taxes for this town full of budget cuts, which is like, it's just like a hard pill, it's a hard pill to swallow. And, you know, coming to these meetings, I will say that I really appreciate all of the information that you all need from your committee meetings. Like, you really haven't done that in the past, and I really do appreciate this. I feel like you're being a lot more, like, you're being a lot more open with us, like, the, you know, 7 of us that keep coming. Like, I do appreciate that, because, like, we keep coming, like, we keep volunteering, we keep showing up. Like, it's like all the same faces, like, over and over again, because we care a lot, and we want, like, the best for our kids, like, that's why we're all here. And I'm just like I'm really struggling with this amount of money that is continually getting, like, squeezed out of us. Like, is this a town that can afford $1 million increases, like, 2-3 years in a row? Like, what's gonna happen to us, I guess? So, I hope you're thinking about that.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick pieces of information. Plan to close the gap. I think it's a hard one for us here to answer, right? I mean, it's a far deeper structural problem than what we can necessarily solve. But we'll say last year, no one will like this bit of information, but last year the state offered something called the tax levy incentive. It said if you were willing to raise taxes further on the town in order to come up to try and meet adequacy, they would kick in some marginal amount. I don't even know if they gave you anything. It was just perhaps the ability to raise taxes beyond the cap. Now, last year we were already using banked cap. That wasn't something that we were going to throw on top. The same thing this year. It's a high amount, and it's not available this year anyway. So that's not a great option available to us either. I think a lot of it probably has to do with the funding and the formulas and the things that Dr. Cusmano was talking about. There's not a ton that we can do in terms of fixing the adequacy number, right? Consolidation is an interesting question. It's a complicated question. The board has not had formal conversations on consolidation. It's a big topic again with lawmakers at the moment. There's a push. I think the focus from what I've read on the bills that are circulating is for districts that would be smaller than ours, although I think K-8 districts would be in the crosshairs next. But there's nothing formal out there, and that is something that would take lots of studying. It really depends on how they would implement it. You know, they have offered grants in the past for research to be done, but you have to have, you know, willing districts who may want to do it. And I'm no expert on this topic, but I think you know, it would take a lot of research to know, would that actually save any money? Would that actually increase the viability of small districts? Would that, like, it would have to be studied. So there's nothing formally before the board on that. There's certainly talk about it in the state where they would want to compel districts to do it. But at the moment, there's nothing on the horizon with it. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna mention a few other things, just because I thought, I appreciate the comments about the budget presentation. I think I've looked at it that way in the past in other districts, because we had similar issues in other districts under adequacy. Just want to tie up that number, making it more user-friendly, so the suggestions are appreciated. In terms of how we can get back without, you know, let's say in state aid is flat, or we're just getting a similar amount every year. I mean, I'm just writing things down as we're talking, like revenue is obviously easier said than done, whether it's bringing in students from other districts, whether it's programs that we can, and as Mr. Graff said, we haven't formally talked about district consolidation, but we have talked about shared services, especially recently. We've had some casual conversations about that in committee meetings. We've talked about scheduling, like having a scheduling committee again. We did that a few years ago, changed the schedule, and then we kind of ran into the financial issues, so maybe just looking at it from a different lens. But you know, there's some concerns with the schedule anyway, nothing major now with staff, just the way it currently is, even before we had to, you know, make cuts last year. So that's something that's always on the table, and sometimes that comes with, you know, being able to be more efficient and being able to be a little bit more fiscally responsible. So those are just some of the things that I want to mention that we are like actively looking at, facilitated scheduling, and even with revenue, just kind of making sure we're charging the right amount, working with the auditors, working with the attorneys on contracts, so things like that. So, thank you.
Any other comments on agenda items?
Well, I actually got
Sure.
I just wanted to follow up with what, I wanted to, again, really go through it, I wanted to just follow up with what you said. In terms of consolidation, I guess the reason that I brought it up is because I'm not particularly interested in shared services. I'm interested in figuring out a way to maximize services. I think that that's what I'm the most disappointed with our district currently, is I don't think that we're providing, like, sure, maybe we're providing an adequate education, but I don't know that we're providing like a stellar education, and I don't think that we, as a small borough, are able to offer our kids that many opportunities. I know that when they go to the hills or Knowles or whatever, like, we do have like a nice, we can give them this nice choice, you know, Morris County, some really good, like, higher education, or whatever high school is called. Like, I don't particularly feel like, for like a K-8 district, like, it's, like, I came from a pretty, like, low income district, and had, like, very few opportunities, like, that, like, I was provided because of my town. And I'm like a little shocked that like I've sort of wandered into this giving my kids kind of the same thing when I pay like 3 times the taxes that my parents did. And like I live in like a really like a prosperous county. Like I'm just really shocked by that. So like I would be interested in combining with towns in order to like, you know, I view towns around me, like I work in schools that, you know, provide a lot more after school, they provide a lot more like free programs, they have like a lot more community engagement, like we're just like a very small town with some very like limited, tired parents like that. Like I don't know how much more you can really squeeze out of us. Like I do want you to think about that. Like every month, like it's like we need more volunteers. Like the HSA is like they're like, you know, superheroes. Like they work every single day unpaid to like give the kids like all the stuff that I feel like my taxes should be giving these kids. And I am worried about the burnout that like all of us are working parents, like, and we're feeling compelled to take on part-time jobs to give our kids like a little bit of extra because our tax dollars aren't providing it. So that is why I mentioned consolidation, because like when I look at a regional district, when I look at townships, they do offer more. They offer summer rec programs, they offer a lot more, maybe they offer a full day preschool, you know, they offer things that when you're taking in more, you know, tax revenue, you can offer those things. I like, as it is, we have shared services like with your special ed department, and you know, as a special educator, you know, I really raise my eyebrows at that. Like, I think that like we're already like very strained with a very high tax levy here. So I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like I want more for my money. I don't want less. And if more for my money is like achieved by, you know, tapping into a larger population, I really think that's like worth like looking into, because I don't know, like I feel like this isn't really acceptable, and it's very disappointing, I guess. So that's what I was saying.
Thank you. Other comment on agenda items? All right. I will close the floor for the first public comment section. And that takes us to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Hernandez,
Yes.
Mrs. Georgillis,
Yes.
Mr. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Dahl,
Yes.
Mr. Graff.
Yes.
All passed.
There's no new business or other items with the board, so I will,
I
yes,
just wanted,
yes, comment.
real quick, just a comment. I really do encourage all of our community members to communicate in some way, shape, or form with their elected representatives. I know they say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and while that might not be guaranteed, but we need to make some noise if we want any changes to be made on a state level.
Thank you. I will open the floor to the second public comment section on any topic. All of the same protocols apply. Please come to the podium, state your name and municipality.
Jocelyn Francis, the Borough. And just like Ms. Ruda was saying, we're tired, you know, parents coming to the meeting, trying to see what's happening. You just keep hearing these cuts, and then the kids don't have after school things or things that they can get involved in. And what happens when the kids don't have things to get involved in? They get involved in trouble, right? You know, we have 7th and 8th graders in the last couple of weeks. I haven't been able to attend the meeting maybe twice, but I like to do my, you know, research. And, you know, just hearing different stories from kids being, I wouldn't use the word bully, but new kids coming in and kind of like trying to stamp their ground over, like, I'm the new kid here. And, like intimidating other kids. So I've heard this from at least 3-4 kids, and I think the same question I have for Mr. Greco I had last year, February, is how are we implementing some type of climate and culture, especially in the middle school, because it's like a war zone, it's hard. You get it, you leave Lincoln, you come over here, and your 4th grade is like, what's happening here, right? And you have the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. But how are we helping them? Even as we cut, we have more, you know, study halls and more teachers, and 22 kids per class in 7th grade, that's huge. I mean, when I coach 21 boys for an hour and a half, it's like, it's hell. So I can imagine like for 6 hours, you know, you have a teacher and 22 kids to try to rile them in, and you're 7th graders or 6th graders. So is there anything that we're thinking of long-term program wise to help with that, to help the teachers, because I'm sure they're tired too, you know, to help the teachers and for the kids too, so they're not just sitting there getting into trouble, making trouble with their friend, or, you know, trying to be the new kid on the block and intimidate the other kids. Because I'm hearing from a lot of boys, parents are not talking, they're not able to come to the meeting because they're working 50 million jobs just to try to figure out, you know, limited. So they talked to me because why? Coach Joy. So they told me what's going on, and I was like, all right, I'll bring it up and see what we have here. Some parents are thinking of homeschooling their kids. I mean, in 7th grade, to think about homeschooling your kid, you have to be really like pressed, you know? Because 7th grade is, you got 1 more grade and you go to high school. So to be thinking about that, you really have to be a stressful parent. So, I mean, I don't know if you have a response or something to look into. What are we doing with that climate and culture, especially? Even teaching parents. How we deal with teen boys? How we deal with teen girls? Whether it's a webinar or there's so many free things. I think there's so much Hernandez shared, like bunch of little free webinar things. Like, how are we getting these things to parents so that they, oh, let me look at this. Let me see how I can figure it out. Because they're like, holding their beer on. So that would be my my question. How are we doing that? Because I'm all for the kids. All right?
Thank you. You know, you've never done a hit night or a
have something for parent,
I have
parent
something I
academy,
can share
we
too.
did a while ago, we could have something. In terms of individual situations, yeah, in terms of individual situations, I would definitely encourage those parents to contact Mr. Samuels, myself, just with the specifics of the situation of, we'll respect, you know, that process, and I know sometimes it's difficult, you know, kids don't want parents to say something, but I'm not like aware specifically. Obviously, I can't talk about specific students if I'm thinking of like a small handful in my head. But we are looking at, I didn't even mention it to the board yet, but it's, we have had some carryover grant funds, so we're looking at doing a character education / leadership, we're calling it assembly, it's more of like almost a little bit more than a half day. We've been looking at different things like that, so that hopefully can happen as soon as the spring this year. And that would be funded with grant funds in that realm for students, so, but I wouldn't mind having a more specific conversation to kind of, you know, we've tried, and I don't think we've cut anything specifically related to mental health and wellness and things in that area, but if there's certain things that we need to target, like I think the idea of, we did a parent academy my first year here, it was still like that COVID follow-up year, so it was still not great attendance. We had some
Guest speaker.
yeah, we have.
Last year.
Yeah, we had somebody last year too, so, we can look into that and open to suggestions too. I know there's a lot of doctors.
Yeah, if I can just add, one of, what Coach Joy shared is that I posted from NJ4S. It's like the mental health hub for New Jersey. Ours is in Parsippany. It's dismantling right now. So that's, you know, as a school counselor, that's where we would get a lot of our kind of like free resources, right, for our students and our families. It's NJ4S.
NJ4S.
Yes, but it's dismantling. It's the Mental Health Academy or association in Parsippany. Governor Sherrill is kind of shifting that to provide more access to parents directly. So I know that's something, heads up, that's coming your way.
Yeah, no, I know that was one of
yeah.
her initiatives, and we've recently, obviously I can't get into specifics, we've recently used NJ4S and Perform Care.
Yep.
And there's another agency I'm not remembering for individual situations that help in the home and things like that, so, we're open to any, if I recall your, kind of like your wheelhouse, so I'm open to any suggestions. And I know a lot of the resources are free, but I know we are recommending a lot of those things, but in terms of maybe like a program or something, besides what's in our curriculum, like, we're open to it, and we're looking at one right now, so more news to come on that. It may be geared toward a specific grade for now, but,
Yeah, middle school's hard.
yeah.
Let's just start.
I'll just respond to the first part about, you referenced being tired. The words I used, I didn't read all of the emails, or the letters that I wrote, but the words I used as representatives was demoralized and exhausted. That was in my letters. We feel it. I mean, this budget season, I mean, I don't know how many months I didn't sleep last year. And this is like the season of doing the same thing. So we feel it too. We don't want to have to cut 10% of instructional staff. We don't want to cut any more. We don't want to raise taxes by $1 million. We don't want to do these things, but we're doing the best we can, and we share the exhaustion. Thank you. Other comments?
Hello, Katie Clark again. A quick comment on the budget, I forgot to mention it before. I was just wondering why travel budget, it looks like it's gone up from 25,000 in last year's budget to 48,000 this year.
Yeah, Because that's
So,
not
so
actually.
that's not an actual,
Is that just
budgeted
cap?
number,
Is that
yeah,
cap?
that's just the
Okay.
cap.
Oh, sorry,
that-
I
right,
broke my own rule. when
I know,
interrupted.
I should know
I'm sorry.
about
It's a perfunctory number, and
Okay, good, thank you. And then I had a question, at the January 20th meeting, I asked about how you were paying for the Mind's Eye contract and how it was hitting, whether it was the 25-26 budget or the 26-27. You said the 120,000 in startup fees were in the the current budget, and that it was, you were reallocating from educational IT programs and software. Is that what Mr. Doty was talking about and Ms. Dahl about not having to link it and stuff like that? I'd like to understand, I guess, is it a reduction in duplicative programs, or have you cut something that was providing instruction to students? This is just, a few parents have mentioned it, just in general in the community. I don't know why we cancelled it, but I think the 8th grade trip to Washington, if there's anything you can do to bring something like that back. I know, I think it was an insurance concern. I had a question, you talked about revenue before, additional revenue. I had a follow-up question regarding Rockaway Sports Program for the summer camp that is run by Mr. Owen's wife. When you were setting it up last year, I'd asked you whether or not they were paying to use the school facilities. You said not at that time, and that they might give a donation at the end of the season, or the end of the summer. One, I want to know if they did, and what's the plan for the use of facilities in this upcoming summer. And then at the Mount Council meeting, Mr. Haynes mentioned that he would be meeting with you, Mr. Greco, and Mr. Grapp. So just wondering if you've met, and if so, what you talk about. And then, oh, I saw you set a notification about a lot of staff openings. I guess how many do you have currently, and what's the status of those? Is there an update on the change room policy? Are you moving forward with any changes? We hired a media specialist consultant in the fall for $5,000. I was just wondering what materials we received in the district. I know that the administration received them, and how that translates into instruction for the students. And then also, if you could be consistent with social media across the district, that'd be great. I know you have it on the district website that pulls through from Twitter, but LinkedIn, and I guess it's Mrs. Scolio or someone in the LinkedIn office there, is very active on Facebook. They're really good with it. TJ does nothing, and then there's random Twitter stuff that's inconsistent. Like if it was always there, that's fine. But it's not. Thank you.
Thank you. So Dr. Guzmano answered the travel. I don't know if I can cite the specific line items that made up that 120. I think some of it was probably
some of it
staff
was,
member.
yeah, and some of it was, the duplication of, things that, Mr. Doherty brought up, such as not using Linkit, and then there was other things by using Mind's Eye. We weren't gonna be paying these, service fees to like, I forgot the name of the company, MWware or something like that, for various, licensing and those types of things. So it all combined, there is a savings at the end of the day, because had we still had a full employee with the health benefits and then go out to purchase all of the items, it would have been much more costly.
I think that's the go forward answer, but the 120
No,
started
that's in this year's budget. It was already there, and so we just utilized it. I mean, but the budget,
nothing was cut.
No,
in order to
nothing
pay
was
for it,
cut,
so you're saying.
and, you know, as far as, say, a trend line, the trend is in a positive direction, right? So while this year might be seen as a correction, I can tell you that this budget that I proposed, was structurally sound, and that it is preparing the district to be on sound footing for the future. And so, The goal and hope always is that, you know, the level of increase will keep decreasing, you know what I mean? It's never a good thing to go to zero because it'll compound the problem and just kick the can down the road when you do that. You know what I mean? And then it causes structural deficits, which you end up where you were. So moving forward, I think it's in the right direction. With this budget, there were no staff cuts, right? No one has lost a job. There's also, I don't want to discuss it in public, but we'll be negotiating with the teachers, so there's money in the budget for the increase for the teachers. And so, this is the best that we can do with what we have, with the cards that were dealt, for lack of better words.
No, I appreciate that, thank you. It's a 26% increase over 3 school years, so that's what you work,
I don't think I'll address all of these, maybe we get back to some of them with some details after we gather.
Yeah, I don't, but the new format, I think, you don't have to answer all of them.
Yeah, we have not met with anyone from the town council.
Okay.
We certainly would like them to understand where we are following this meeting, the adoption of the preliminary budget. They've had us come in the past, usually in the summer, but we'd like everybody to know where we are and understand it as much as possible.
I think just with that too, that some of the comments I made about was like the budget presentation is also thinking about that, because when you go in there, again, it's a slightly different audience again, and all they'll say is we pay 63% of our taxes go to the schools, and what the hell's going on keeps going on. That's, you know, that's what you're gonna face, and it might not seem like it to y'all, but as I'm trying to help with things like that, it's, if you answer the questions, people aren't gonna ask the questions, because you've answered their questions already.
Thank you. Other comments?
There isn't one.
Oh, looked like you were.
I know I do that too.
If there's no other public comment, I will close the floor. Yeah, I have one more thing I just want to say. So, I wanted to make a statement. I think, not reflective of tonight. I think tonight was a very healthy public comment section and information provided. But there have been some recent communication with the board, communication on social media, communication with the administration, that at times questions people's ethics and at times makes personal commentary about folks. So I want to take the opportunity to remind the public that we can disagree respectfully. We can come to different conclusions or simply disagree with decisions and do it in good faith. That can be healthy. And we just ask that we continue to do it respectfully. Again, I think tonight is very good. I also want to remind the public that the role of the board member is nonpartisan. Party politics don't factor into any decisions that we make or votes that we make at any point in the process. I also want to remind everyone that please be mindful. I mean, you all see us out and around town. We speak for the board, so we have to be careful when we engage or answer questions while out in the community. So we may not always be able to be in a position to discuss all details while at other community events, and we certainly can't divulge details around things that we have a responsibility to keep confidential, like personnel and things like that. We are unpaid volunteers. We are elected officials, yes, but this is, you know, volunteer time to do this. We happen to be parents as well. So our children are impacted by the same decisions that we make, just as all the other children are. And our personal finances, we live here, those are impacted the same way by the same budget decisions that we make, just as everybody else in town. So the district, like many districts in our state and region, as I mentioned earlier, is in a difficult time. I think over the next couple of weeks, we're going to start to see a lot more of what that means from other districts, that we are not alone, not that we should necessarily feel better because of it. And the board and the administration doing the best that we can with the information and options available to us. We don't take it lightly. So we ask the public, please keep that disagreement respectful, refrain from any personal commentary or attacks on social media or otherwise. And just think about if you or your family were sitting here, how we want to be treated, and we keep ourselves focused on what's in the best interest of the children and work respectfully on that purpose. And with that, I will mention that our next regularly scheduled meeting is Tuesday, April 7th. The public portion of the meeting will begin at 7:30 in the cafeteria of Thomas Jefferson Middle School. We do need to enter executive session for a contractual matter. Is that correct? Yeah, right, say? No action will be taken afterwards. Do we not say how long? Oh, there it is. 5? We've never talked about anything. I'm going to say 15 minutes, but no action will be, I refuse to believe it's 5.
I'm setting my timer. You're going to put a timer?
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
No, yes, we need to.